I love healers. In the specific yet well-populated genre of online team-based, class-based shooters, one of my favorite roles to fill is the support class, the glue keeping the whole team alive and effective. But if your only exposure to such a role is the likes of Mercy from Overwatch, I can get how you might fall into the common perception gamers have that healers are boring, passive, or otherwise second fiddle to their damage-dealing counterparts. Healing up allies and giving them a damage boost is obviously effective, just not always fun, since it tends to leave you tethered to a tank for the majority of the round with a constant cap on your excitement level, occasionally relishing your few chances to use that pistol. She's far from the only healer in that game, but others deviate more and more from the idea of making healing a primary gameplay loop. Every healer other than Mercy in some way gives you something to do other than healing, whether it's Zenyatta's debuffs, Lucio's passive auras, or Ana's ability to just shoot in the general direction of a firefight and not care who you hit. These heroes are all a lot more active, perhaps in an attempt to remedy the fact that the community would by and large like to play anything besides support, but abusing the enemy team as a mini-tank that occasionally throws out health potions isn't much of a healer, is it? And combining healers with human rights violations is perhaps one of many ideas in Overwatch lifted by its competitor of sorts, Paladins. Supports and Paladins tend to be much more interesting to play because the standardized kit template means that everyone is involved in firefights to some extent, although I wouldn't call most of them true healers. The way a lot of supports in this game seem to be made is to design a DPS character, make them worse, then throw in some kind of offhand heal ability so that they technically qualify for the category. The most interesting ones are those that have other abilities that fit a more supportive role. Genos, for example, is able to lock a single target in place but can't fire while channeling, encouraging you to use it to help your team take down a slippery target. Furia has a similar single target stun, Seris has an ult that makes a lot more sense on a support, I'm just saying, but a lot of this is debuff support. Rey is the only character who comes close to being an effective and active teammate while never touching the opposing team. My favorite way to play her is using cards that enhance her ability to block damage and quick charge teammates' ultimates, at least before they nerf Refreshing Break, goddammit! At least she's relevant. On the far opposite end of the scale is Warframe, a game I have a complicated past with that draws my particular ire as a fan of healers because it technically has them, but makes them both obnoxious to play and completely extraneous. Trinity is a ridiculously powerful support frame whose gameplay is terminally boring because she's able to fully restore everyone's health at the press of a button, and continuously restore everyone's energy as long as she has the presence of mind to keep activating her ability regardless of context. Playing healer in Warframe means pretending only guns exist while you position a sippy chicken over your 2 and 4 keys. That, or playing Hero and putting a lot more effort into pretending you're actually useful. Because the sickest joke is that you're not useful. Warframe is so power-crept that even with Trinity's extreme utility, she just isn't necessary with a dozen other ways to self-heal or restore energy, while the meta dictates that anyone bringing anything short of room-clearing DPS is a liability. It seems like healers in every game are either boring, half-healers, or unnecessary. Luckily, there was at least one game that got it right. The medic from Team Fortress 2 was the start of my healer obsession all those years ago, and it's only mostly nostalgia when I say he's a nearly perfect implementation of a healer that's both effective and fun to play that no other game has gotten close to. I believe you can break down what makes the medic so good into 3 core ideas that, God willing, might be used to give us another good healer character someday. Tenet 1. The fundamental act of healing must be satisfying. In a game like Paladins, healing is a quick little offhand action so as to not interfere too much with the core combat. In TF2, healing replaces the core combat, becoming the core gameplay loop the same way that shooting or building or cyberbullying is for the other classes. When developers make shooters, they always pay special attention to the feel of the shooting and movement on top of how it mechanically fits into the game, so it's strange that healing rarely gets the same attention. When you fire up TF2's medigun, you always get that warm thrum and the twisting snake of light connecting to your teammate. Ooh yeah, that's the good stuff. Plus, there's a lot of attention given to showing the immediate results of your work. Even in peacetime, there's a certain satisfaction to watching all your teammates' health bars fill up and even exceed the maximum. But in active combat, that's where it pops off. There's little as tense as trying to make sure multiple allies stay alive in an offensive push, or keeping a team from falling apart after a surprise attack. Which leads me to Tenet 2. Healers must be necessary. Playing Hero or Trinity in Warframe has you going through the motions imagining your contribution matters while Saren dabs on the point and vaporizes another batch of tube men. But in TF2, the difference between a team with and without a competent medic can be staggering, even in barely organized pub matches. A lot of this is how the fundamental combat is designed. With a usually higher time to kill and methods of self-heal being pretty limited outside of stationary health packs, teams with a medic have vastly more potential to sustain themselves. A death in this game can often be attritional, where injuries from 1 or 2 successful fights keep you from winning your third. A big part of the satisfaction of playing medic is knowing that every time you heal someone up, that's another couple hits they could take in their next fight, and those hits matter. Tenet 3. Healers must be varied to play. Satisfying as your core gameplay may be, necessary to your team's success as you likely are, nothing will save you from boredom when you're spending all your time tethered to the tank wondering how it all went wrong. While there is a subculture in TF2 of playing small teams with defined roles, including the pocket medic that sticks to a soldier or heavy, to me the superior experience will always be pub medic on a team of 12 or more. Drop into your average pub match as a medic and you've got a heavy on the card under fire, a sniper on actual fire, a scout screaming because he got a paper cut, and 3 more teammates that are probably going to die charging a sentry position if they don't get properly buffed up, all while constantly having to keep yourself alive as you're the highest priority target on your team. The core appeal of a hero shooter, since that's apparently the term now, is to provide a variety of different experiences in the same basic gameplay framework. Playing Soldier is all about manipulating the position of yourself and your opponents. Heavy is a game of smart positioning and situational awareness, and Pub Medic is an absolutely chaotic game of crisis management. It requires a strong understanding of the state of your team, and since the nature of the conflict can be so fluid, there's never a dull moment as you switch back and forth from general team maintenance to struggling to keep people alive in active combat. Then of course there's the big one. The entire rhythm of the medic, and really all of TF2, is the Uber charge. And yes, tons of healer characters have ultimate abilities, but none have one that's so unique within its own game. And if it seems like I'm cheating by including a critical pillar of TF2's balance as a point in the favor of the medic specifically, first, it's because I am, and second, because that's kind of my overall point. What truly makes the medic work as a fun and effective healer is that his involvement is so core to TF2's foundation. He's been in the core class roster basically from the beginning, and his involvement is considered in the design of every map. It leads to the sad realization that importing the medic into other games wouldn't magically grant them a fun healer. Who wants to play a Paladins champ that isn't actively shooting, or a Warframe whose sole capability is something that can be achieved by dozens of mods and deployables? It would be like trying to navigate a Sonic level as Mario, or expecting the heavy to not get domed immediately if he stepped into a CSGO match. Basically, a pure healer only works if the game is built with them in mind. When a game's core combat is still being designed, not many want to think about completely replacing it so early, but the ground level is where you dictate the behavior that you want from your players. For examples outside of healers from games previously discussed that I've played extensively and didn't delay this video for so I could play them in a way that didn't give their abusive developer money, Paladins has a problem with players not wanting to play the incredibly essential tank class. They try to entice them with an incredibly powerful new tank and it damn near kills the game. Warframe has a problem with its 50-strong roster of frames being near impossible to balance against high-level content, so they just make new bosses straight up immune to most abilities. These are both problems that go deep into their respective games' foundations, and attempts to fix them via updates are simply not successful, and frankly nothing short of a sequel, an actual sequel that is, that rebuilds their tower of duct tape design will rectify them. And this is why making satisfying healers is hard. By their very nature they need to be fundamental, but you can't introduce something fundamental in patch 1.4.3. Hey, nice to see all of you again. Please take off your shoes before coming inside. Thanks again to Koosha Karimi for doing the animated segments in this video. I know I've been gone longer than usual, but I'm feeling pretty good about making videos again, so I'm jumping straight into the next one. It'll be more like the one-shot video, except hopefully it'll get views. And maybe a smaller one to fill in the gaps before that, who knows. I've been Rycluse, and I will straight up not heal you if you spam E. Thanks for watching.